This is the Definitely Uncertain podcast, brought to you by Gold Rock Capital. Each week, we look at how high net worth families can improve their lives, decisions, and investments in a deeply uncertain world. We always aim to provide practical information, even if we can't offer specific investment advice. Welcome, everybody, to Definitely Uncertain, the Gold Rock podcast. And my guest today is BT Deutch. BT is a Haredi American Israeli marathon runner. And there are just not that many people I can imagine that would answer that particular description, particularly when you add into that a wife and mother of five. So I think she's a pretty unusual guest for us. She has won the Tiberias Marathon, the Jerusalem Marathon, as well as the Israeli Half Marathon and the national championships here. She proudly runs for Israel and has made running her profession. And she's not only a runner, she is an influential person and was named this year as one of the most influential Jews by the Jerusalem Post and also by Israel 21C. As we said, BT is a wife and a mum, and she's also the only person I know who was ever featured in a global ad campaign. You just need to Google BT and Adidas, and you will see everything. So, BT, welcome to the Gold Rock podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well,
I love the title.
Getting straight into it, tell us a little bit about your background. How you got to where you are.
So I grew up in New Jersey. I'm the oldest of five. And like you said, I grew up in a very religious community. I didn't have a lot of exposure to sports, but whatever sports I could do, I loved. I was always, involved in one ball game or another. And I came to Israel at 18 to study in seminary and got married the year after that, started my own family. I never imagined that my career would take me to becoming a professional marathon runner. But after 6 years of having kids, and I had 4 kids, thank God, in 6 years, I realized I was really out of shape. I wanted to change that. I signed up for my first marathon, and that opened the door to a wild journey, which led me to winning the national championship in 2019 and being selected to be part of the Israeli Olympic team. And I've spent the last 5 years with a goal of, representing Israel in various competitions. Many of them conflicted with Shabbat, so it didn't always happen, but I am still proudly running for Israel and juggling motherhood.
Can you pinpoint the moment where you're like, okay, we're going to take this from something which I'm, talented amateur to I'm going to make this the thing that I do, that I'm going to dedicate myself to this at a professional level?
Yeah, so that was in January 2019 when I won my first national title. Honestly, it was like a miraculous race. I mean, I think I had a good chance of winning, but I ran a 2:42, which was the 5th fastest time in Israel ever. And they called me up and were like, oh, we don't normally do this. We accept all our candidates in September, but because you ran this time, you qualified. And would you like to, train more seriously? And I approached my Rav and mentor, Rabbi Kellerman, and I shared this with him. And I was conflicted because I was doing something that I really felt passionate about, which is helping Jewish students connect with their identity and come to Israel. And that was always my dream. But I felt like having this platform as a runner would allow me to continue doing that work, just maybe in a broader scale and reach even more people. And it was using my passion, like something I really loved. So my Rav was on the same page and he really encouraged me. And he actually shared something with me that I feel like I always share when I speak. And it's so relevant to all of us. He said, there's no one exactly like you. And there never was anyone just like you, and there never will be. You are a one-time phenomenon. And with that comes the obligation to understand your potential and recognize your mission. You were put here with a very special mission. So he said, this is your mission, like, go for it, run with it, and I never looked back.
So running for you isn't just about running in that case. It's you see that as part of a wider life mission or the thing that you want to achieve. Is that right?
Yeah, I definitely feel that for me, running is not just the competitive, the times. It's about using the tools and gifts that God has given me to make a difference in the world and spread more godliness in the world. And I think we all do that in our own way. And
Mhm.
people sometimes look at like, oh, I have this job or I'm going to go into this field, but like it's not just the mundane job you're doing. It's figuring out how the path you're pursuing is actually really utilizing the strengths you've been given and how you're going to do whatever you're doing and take it to the next level of like bringing holiness into the world, making a difference. Everyone does it in their own way, but we change the world that way.
That's a great point, and I think that a lot of the people that will be watching and listening, I don't think spend the time for themselves thinking about the things that I do in life, whether it's the professional things that I do or other things that I do. How does that, utilize the things which are special about me to, fulfill a mission? And it could be, a religious mission, or it could be, bettering the world from some other places. Have you speak a lot, you do a tremendous amount of public speaking. When people hear that story, do they resonate with that thought, even though they may not be necessarily interested in sport? Is that something that people come up to you and talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially when I speak with young people, which I do a lot, a big question many people have is like, how do you know? How do you know what your mission is? How do you know what you're meant to do? How do you know what you're good at? And something I always emphasize is like, we don't necessarily have one moment of clarity where like God comes down and says, this is what you're meant to do. It's a
Mhm.
journey, it's a path. But if you are committed to uncovering your purpose and to getting to know yourself better, really it starts with that. A lot of people lack basic self-awareness. It's not something that and today it's even harder because like it's so easy to distract yourself with all social media technology, like tune into everyone else besides actually yourself. I say when you start to listen to yourself and you have that deep desire to not only understand who you are but connect to God from a deep place, you'll succeed.
Yeah.
You will figure it out.
I think a lot of people that I meet in all sorts of areas of life, what drives them often is about what they feel is other people have expectations of them, rather than looking inside and saying, what are the things that I could and should be doing. Doesn't necessarily lead always to a different outcome in terms of what I should do in life, but it changes dramatically the energy and the motivation about why I'm doing something. And I think the message that if I'm understanding sort of the essence of what you're saying, is you had this moment of actually running can be part of that, mission statement for me, which has the running aspect and is something which I'm really good at, but also achieve something which is above and beyond. I want to maybe sort of think about that a little bit more deeply for a second. The community that you are part of and where you grew up, as you say, there wasn't a great deal of sport, and it isn't necessarily the aspiration for parents to have kids who are going to be professional sports people, right? I'm not sure that your parents, when they were sending you off to grade school, like, yes, we definitely want BT to be an outstanding runner. Um, at a sort of personal or family or communal level, having made that decision, did you encounter resistance, raised eyebrows? Were people like, BT, are you sure you know what you're doing here? Did you get a lot of that sort of negative feedback?
So, on a family level, I would say I'm very blessed to have incredibly supportive parents, and they themselves are Bali Chuva. They didn't grow up in the religious world, so like my dad was a outstanding football player. Like they get sports, and I think what I always grew up knowing, like they encourage us to be the best at whatever we want to be. Like whatever you want, whatever you're passionate about, go after it fully. So when they saw that this is something I'm good at and that it's taking running to another level. It's like being able to use that platform to make a Kiddush Hashem. They were like, 100%. They have and always are my biggest fans and supporters. I think in the Jewish community, it's very different. I think there's sport could be divided into two things. There's competitive sport and there's like exercise because it's good for you. The religious community has embraced the concept of exercise because it's good for you, and we're making progress. And I think that's so important. Competitive sport is still something I don't think people fully understand and almost look at as like, well, it's a little crazy. It's not what Jews do. It's not a career for women, for religious women. And I understand that. I think that it takes a while for, especially in the ultra Orthodox world, for like new ideas and change to happen. So there definitely were people that, told me off. I'm very lucky to feel confident in myself and have found the Rabbanim and mentors who do appreciate what I'm doing and who I can consult with and ask questions from. And what's always been the most important to me is not to compromise on my values as a Jewish woman while doing this, and to find the way to balance both, because I really think that's possible with almost anything you want to achieve. Of course, there's going to be things, swimming might not be as compatible, but there are ways to work around it. And that's also part of the mission that I feel like I'm here to share. Like, if you're a Jewish woman and you have a talent, don't give it up because you think it's not compatible with being a Jew. There are ways to make it work. You can balance it. And even if people around you are telling you off, find the people that will support you, and believe in yourself. Like, you have to be your biggest fan all the time, because there are going to be a lot of people who think you're crazy.
And I'm sure there were those moments where you had to turn both inward to yourself and also to the people close to you to just regain that sense of, yeah, this is the right thing for me to do, and I can do it without giving up on the things which are important to you. Interestingly, how do your kids feel about having a professional runner as mum? Or is that like so obvious to them that it's just like, it's not a thing?
No, it's funny. Well, even just a short story about what you said. When I lived in Har Nof, actually, like, I sent my kids to the regular Beis Yaakov there. And after I ran the marathon 7 months pregnant, I literally got called in by the principal, and she really told me off. And I was so shaken up because I always went to, I went to a very religious seminary. I was always like following the rules. Like, I have no problem with modesty and I dress the part. And I'm like, but I just was running because I love running. Like, I'm just doing, and I had to really go back to my rabbi and ask him. And he explained everything I shared kind of. But I think for my kids, for the most part, I think they're very proud of what I'm doing and they're used to it. So it's like not even a second thought in their head. But sometimes it can be hard, I think, to have a parent that's in the limelight and you go places and people recognize you and people want to stop me and ask questions. And at the end of the day, I don't think kids care so much about what you're doing as much as, are you there for them? That's what matters to them. And in 20 years, they'll look back and say, wow, my mother was a great example of like being able to pursue a career when they're doing that themselves. But right now, they need me just to be there for them. So that's what I try to remind myself of. Like, I'm mother first and professional marathoner second.
I wouldn't underestimate the positive impact of them seeing a parent who is both faithful to the things that you are educating them to and still managing to do the things that you believe in at a personal level. I think that has a tremendous impact also on kids, that they see that those two things can come together. They may make completely different choices about what they want to do later on in life, but they will understand that one does not necessarily have to be at the expense of another.
I have a son who wants to be a professional marathon runner. So
oh, okay, cool.
We'll see what happens.
How old is he?
Yeah.
How old is he?
He's 11.
Okay,
he's 11.
Not quite up to the marathon yet.
No.
But he's out running?
He loves running. He's very good at sports. He's very disciplined. He has a similar head to me. Okay. I don't know. I did tell him, like, in Israel especially, like, it's hard because the top male marathoners are all Ethiopian and automatically have a certain advantage. But I'm not gonna, he can pursue it. He should go after it.
Brilliant. Okay. I'm guessing you have a long bucket list of like things that you would still want to achieve professionally. We've even spoken about that previously. How do you go about when you become a professional runner as opposed to, I wouldn't even call myself an amateur. I just,
You should call yourself an amateur
yeah,
runner. You
I
are a marathoner. You
yeah,
ran a
exactly.
marathon.
When you're sitting down and thinking, okay, what's on that bucket list? How realistic do you need to be with that, or is it about, pushing that target out just, beyond reality? When you sit and think about that, how do you consider that?
Well, I think that we don't have the same being a professional runner. You have to be very single-minded and focused.
Yeah.
Like if I was just running for fun, I'd do more marathons and I'd do more like destination marathons, and I could even win a lot of them. But um, I have serious goals like making it to the Olympics, and the criteria has only gotten more difficult since I've started training. It's literally become over 20 minutes faster,
Wow.
which is crazy.
Is
Like
that is
when
that
I
just
started
because there are
running,
more people running at a professional level?
the times have gotten faster. They introduced new shoe technology. I think a little, and women have stepped up to the plate. I think more, but I mean, for me, I use it as something to keep myself motivated. But so I definitely the Olympics are up there, but also representing Israel in more world competitions. I think there are certain races, like major races, I would like to go to, like Boston and New York, and see how I stack up. I have been doing it for like almost 5 years, but I also feel like I've kind of just scratched the surface. And I've been through some really difficult moments, but I look forward with like a lot of positivity in terms of like there's still a lot more that I think I can accomplish, and even beyond the marathon. Like I'd love to do some ultra marathons because I think that the longer I go, the more competitive I could be. Like that's my strength. So
Mhm.
um,
What does ultra mean?
it could be like 50 miles. It could be 100 kilometers. It could be 100 miles. I don't know what I do.
Okay, good luck with that.
um,
And
so
so thinking about, obviously, again, as kind of more of a sports spectator than a participant. Obviously, for an athlete, the Olympics is like it's the pinnacle to just to make it there. And um, in the path that you are on, you have your highs, you have lows, you have injuries, you have setbacks, you have, am I going to be sponsored this year? Am I not going to be sponsored this year? Trillion and one things that get in the way of just, getting out there and doing the thing. Um, how do you cope with the lows? What do you say to yourself in those? What are the tools that, and I think we all have those moments. I think in 2024, there's so much of it around the world. Everybody can plug into, frankly, the highs and the lows. What makes BT, get up again at 4 o'clock in the morning to do it all over again when she just had a terrible day or a bad race, or the injury isn't getting better when it's supposed to. And I don't want to list all the things that make your life.
there have been a lot of them. I've
Yeah.
had some really like I started my career in such an epic high that I almost thought, oh, it's always going to be like this. And I didn't realize, and I am a naturally optimistic and positive person. So for a long, it's easy for me to be positive, but I think that real resilience isn't just being able to be positive, it's being able to be in the moment of those hard emotions and feel them fully, but
Mhm.
then also know that they don't define you, and that you can climb out of those difficult moments, and having that like rock solid belief in yourself. At the end of the day, if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. Like
Mhm.
you're the only one who can keep showing up for yourself. And after all the setbacks that I've had, I still believe that I haven't reached my potential. So that's what motivates me. Like I want to see where I could go. I want to see how far I can go with this. And I think people also have this like misunderstanding about the path to success, because everything we see around us is just the end product. People succeeding, people standing on the podium, people getting the job, people accomplishing. No one shows you all the struggles they went through on the way. And if you don't understand that you are going to fall rock bottom before you reach success, then the moment it happens, you'll be like, oh, okay, I guess I wasn't meant to go down this path. Like, I'm not cut out for this. Instead of realizing that, no, by going through this, you are getting a little bit closer to your goal, and you might have to go through it 10 more times. But I think a lot of times we give up too quickly. So it's easy to talk about it. It's harder to experience it. But everything that I've learned on this journey is that I'm stronger. We are stronger than we realize. And I tell myself that you have more strength inside of you. You can keep going. I believe in myself more than anyone else in the world. And I know that the difficult moments, I should experience them. They're painful, and I can feel that sadness and pain, and that's healthy. That's part of it. But also, it's going to help me get to like another place. It's gonna take me to another level of growth, and it's shaping me into who I'm meant to be. So ultimately, the obstacles and the struggles we go through are the path to our greatest successes.
So I can
That's
tell
how I look
everybody
at
that's
it.
listening. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I can tell everybody that's listening or watching that actually where I first really became aware of BT was through your I think it was Facebook postings or whatever. I think it was Facebook posts originally, where actually more you speak about, you know, I actually didn't make the training time that I wanted to, or I'm still suffering with the injury, or I didn't make the qualification for a particular race. And not because you were complaining about obviously not making the milestone, but actually, I think it was the ability to share that moment of adversity. I think give and draw on the power of that sharing with the people who were reading and presumably giving you feedback to do so, to remind yourself of, I'm actually going to double down and make it happen. But I think along the way, I think you've carried an awful lot of people through moments of adversity that they are going through. And yeah, it seems, you know, I've seen you run. We live not too far away from each other. I've seen you out. It looks like you're just gliding along the road, like nothing could possibly stop you. And yet, you know, there you are writing that such a thing as, you know, adversity is getting in the way. And so I think even for those people who are, if I take that as a metaphor, that literally just, it looks like they're gliding through life under the water. There's a tremendous amount of adversity and the need for resilience that goes along with that. To the extent, obviously, you share that, I think, to share with people your ability to get over the adversity, but does it also empower you in that moment? Is that part of the writing?
I find writing very cathartic. I think for myself, yeah, it's helpful for me also to feel like there is a purpose to this. You know, if I have to go through this kind of difficult experience, I want anyone else who's going through something similar, and it could be very different in how it looks, but it's similar in the feelings we're feeling, to know that like this is normal, that you can get through this, that this is how you're going to get to your goal ultimately. Because like I said, I don't think a lot of people, when they're going through something difficult, they hide. Especially professional runners, they don't show up when they're injured. You could see them, they're off the grid for months, because like that's not the fun part of running. No one wants to be the the like loser, you know. And I always said like I'm a little bit sick of being that inspirational runner. Like I'd love to just say like, oh, I hit this race out of the park and it was amazing, and I just came and crushed my workout. And I believe like I have those days also, but part of it is like, this is reality. This is life. No one said it was easy. No one said it was fun all the time. And if you have the illusion, and also I was someone that, you know, had a lot of things, went through life pretty smooth sailing for like, you know, my childhood, my high school. I got married early. I had kids right away. Like there are many things people could struggle with, you know, and I have so much to be grateful for. So it's important for me to just feel like I'm able to use my experiences to help others.
Question that is really relevant to the time that we are living in. Over the last several months, obviously, here in Israel, we've been going through a particularly difficult moment, and adversity has become almost a national sport, unfortunately. To what
Yeah.
degree has that either affected you, or have you sort of drawn into that, or have been drawn into that? How is that sort of? I think it's affected all of us in different ways. Can you share a little bit how the last several months have been for you as far as that's concerned?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, for me, thank God, I've always felt like, um, just I think myself, okay, like good. I mean, it's a hard thing to go through, and I knew a lot of people affected by October 7th, and obviously it's so upsetting. But my mental health was, I think, for the most part, okay. I had people very close to me who I felt like were really struggling, and it's hard to know, and people still struggling, and like you really can't imagine how much it's just affected people that I never would have even thought would wouldn't be up. They're strong people, resilient people, but like I think going through this on a national level, and the insecurity and the constant like being threatened, and so for me that's hard to see. I think in terms of my own situation during the war is when I was training to qualify for the Olympics, and I was even more motivated because I'm like, all right, I'm going to go represent Israel in Paris. Like how amazing would that be? And I was coming back from an injury, and the injury came back again, and I ultimately ended up realizing like I'm not going to be able to qualify. I'm not going to be able to run the criteria. I just can't get in shape. My body's not recovering from this injury, and that was so difficult. It was like 4 years of investing singularly towards a goal, all crashing down to not come to fruition. But in the scheme of everything we were going through, the fact that like so many our country suffering, so many people still held hostage, families losing loved ones, like I could be able to say like, okay, this isn't what Hashem was giving you right now, but you're so grateful. I was grateful for so many other things. So I think it put my situation in perspective, and also gave me an opportunity to use my platform to make a difference in other ways. Like I helped hundreds of Miluim families whose fathers were fighting in the army, and being able to do that, was incredible for me. And I still would love to continue helping. And so it's been challenging, but again, it's the way I look at all challenges. There is something good can come out from it, and we can learn something about ourselves we didn't know before, and we can become stronger from it.
So before we finish today, what is next on the list for BT? What's coming up?
Well, I feel I started working with a new coach, which I was hesitant to do. I love my coach. I worked with him for 5 years. He really encouraged me. He said, if you've been stagnating for the last 2 years, like you need to make a change. And so it's always fun to change things up, even though, part of me was hard. And I hope that I'm actually think I'm going to be competing in the 1,500-meter national championships, which is way shorter than the marathon.
Wow.
So it's a lot more intense. It's a lot of speed. That's not till like, I think July. And then I hope to run in the Berlin Marathon. That is the marathon that I was in the best shape of my life for. And I actually, unfortunately, got Corona in the middle of the marathon. And that was in 2021. And I have been dreaming of going back there and just running a perfect race. So God willing, maybe that will happen this September. What?
When is the Berlin Marathon?
It's in September, and this year, because it was a leap year, it actually works out really well. It's before the Chagim, so like there's no stress with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Last year it was Erev Yom Kippur, so that would be very exciting for me. And the 2020, I'm not unfortunately going to be in the Olympics, but the 2025 World Championships are in Tokyo. And I don't know yet the schedule, but I will pray that the women's marathon is not on Shabbat.
Saturday, right?
And I've qualified for the World Championships several years, so I believe I can do that also.
Where can we best watch your progress, BT? What's the best platform for us to see you?
I'm on Instagram. You can follow my runs every day, Marathon Mother, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on LinkedIn. So all those
I just
places.
want to recommend to everybody that it will do them good to get behind BT in any way possible. And I think it will benefit everybody who's going through stuff where they need to seek just that extra little gram and ounce of resilience. If you follow and read BT, you will be inspired to discover more of yourself than you previously knew. BT, I want to thank you for the time you've given us today, and very much looking forward to having you back on to hear how the next few months or next year or so is going for you, and that the the training is on track and everything is on track for more success. We just want to wish you the very, very best. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you for your support, for connecting me with people, for always being there. I'm really grateful, and I am excited to continue working with you.
All right. Thank you very much.